Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're getting into something that is no joke, one of the biggest financial topics for every single American. From a 25-year-old starting their first job to an 85-year-old who depends on that check every month. We're talking about the future of Social Security. You see the headlines, you hear the chatter, and honestly, it can be pretty scary. So, we're going to cut right through all that noise and get to the bottom of what's really going on with your benefits. All right, let's just rip the band aid off and start with the number one fear that's on everyone's mind. It's the big, scary question that can definitely keep you up at night. Is Social Security actually going bankrupt? Is the whole system going to completely collapse and run out of cash before you ever get a chance to retire? Okay, let's be super clear about this. The simple, direct, and honest to goodness answer is no. Social Security is not going bankrupt. It can't, not in the way a company like Sears or Blockbuster goes bankrupt. Why? Because it's what's known as a pay-as-you-go system. The money that today's workers are paying in taxes right now is immediately going out to pay for today's retirees. As long as people are working and paying taxes in America, there will always be money coming into the system. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? This is a really important one. Just because it isn't going bankrupt doesn't mean everything is perfect. The program is absolutely facing a very real and very serious funding shortfall. And that is the heart of the issue we need to wrap our heads around. It's not about the program vanishing into thin air. It's about whether it can keep all of the promises it has made for the future. So let's actually break down what this funding problem is. I want you to stop thinking about it like a corporate bankruptcy and start thinking about it like a simple household budget issue. At the end of the day, this whole thing is just a math problem. It all comes down to the money coming in versus the money going out. So, what on earth is a shortfall? Let's stick with that household budget idea. Imagine for years your paycheck easily covered all your bills: the mortgage, the groceries, the car, and you even had some left over to sock away in a savings account. But now, maybe your expenses have crept up and your paycheck doesn't quite cover everything anymore. So, what do? You start dipping into that savings account each month to cover the difference. That is exactly what's happening with Social Security. The system is now paying out more in benefits than it's collecting in taxes. So it's tapping into its giant savings account, what they call the trust funds, to make up the difference. Now, here's the thing. This isn't some sudden, out of the blue crisis. Experts have seen this coming for a long, long time. The tipping point was way back in 2010. That's when the system started paying out more than it took in. Fast forward to today, and we're actively using those trust funds, that savings account, to fill the gap every single day. The big flashing red date on the calendar, though, is 2034, because that's the year that savings account is projected to finally hit zero. So the multi-trillion-dollar question is, what happens in 2034 if that savings account is empty and Congress has done, well, nothing? The system doesn't just shut down, but by law, it can only pay out as much money as it takes in from ongoing taxes. And based on current projections, that tax revenue will only be enough to cover about 80% of the benefits that have been promised. So, what does that mean? It means an automatic across the board benefit cut of around 20% for every single person receiving Social Security. Let's put some real dollars and cents to that because that's where it really hits home. Let's say your promised retirement benefit was a nice round $2,000 a month. Well, if nothing changes after 2034, that check could suddenly become about $1,600 a month. That's a $400 a month pay cut every single month for the rest of your life. For someone on a fixed income, that is a massive deal. This makes it crystal clear why just kicking the can down the road is not a real option. So, why is this happening? The number one driver behind this whole thing is demographics. It's just a numbers game. This chart here shows it perfectly. It's the ratio of workers paying into the system for one person taking benefits out. Back in the 1960s, you had a whole bunch of workers for each retiree. The system was flush with cash. But as the huge baby boomer generation retires, and as we all thankfully live longer, that ratio has shrunk like crazy. We just have fewer people paying in for each person taking money out. Now, this long term funding problem isn't just happening in some far off future, it's colliding with a problem that's happening right now, and that is the financial squeeze current retirees are already feeling. Even without any future cuts, a lot of people feel like their benefits just aren't keeping up with the cost of living today. And this isn't just a feeling, the data backs it up. This is what that squeeze looks like in the real world. A recent survey showed how retirees are already having to make tough choices. Over half are cutting back on the fun stuff, travel, dining out. But look at this. Nearly 31% are cutting back on essentials. We're talking about groceries and medicine. And almost 30% are having to burn through their own personal savings way faster than they ever planned to. The stark reality is that for so many people, there is no other safety net. Let this number sink in for a second. Over 60% of people on Social Security right now say they could not survive financially if they missed just half of a single check. That really shows you just how essential these benefits are and how absolutely devastating any kind of cut would be. So, why do the benefits feel like they're constantly losing purchasing power? A huge piece of the puzzle is something called the COLA mismatch. The annual raise that retirees get, the cost of living adjustment, is calculated based on an inflation index for urban workers. But retirees spend their money completely differently. A much bigger chunk of their budget goes to things like healthcare and housing. And guess what? Those are two of the areas where costs have been rising the fastest. So their official raise almost never keeps up with their real personal inflation rate. Okay, so we've laid out the problem. It's a big one. But the good news, and there is good news, is that this is a totally fixable problem. There are plenty of solutions that have been on the table for years. So I want you to think of this next part less like a nasty political fight and more like a fix-it menu of options lawmakers in Washington can choose from to solve this thing. And really, all the options boil down to two simple ideas: bring more money in or pay less money out. To bring more money in, you could raise the payroll tax rate just a little bit for everybody. Or you could lift the tax cap. Right now, high earners only pay Social Security tax on the first part of their income. This idea would make them pay it on all of their income. On the other side, to slow down the money going out, you could gradually raise the full retirement age, maybe from 67 to 68 or 69. Or you could tweak the benefit formula itself to slow down how quickly payments grow in the future, especially for people who were higher earners during their careers. And you know what's really wild? This isn't some impossible political puzzle where nobody agrees on anything. There's actually a lot of common ground here. For example, that idea about making wealthier Americans pay Social Security tax on more of their income, get this: 81% of voters from both parties are already on board with it. This problem is solvable. It just takes the political will to do it. Now, while we wait for Washington to finally pick some options from that menu and get to work, we can't just sit around and hope for the best. And here's the most important part of this whole discussion: you have power here. You are not helpless. So let's talk about your personal playbook. The real concrete steps you can take to make your own retirement more secure no matter what happens to the program. So, what are the big moves you can make? Maybe the single most powerful tool you have is delaying when you claim your benefits. Your monthly check gets significantly bigger for every single year you wait between age 62 and 70. Another great option is to find ways to supplement your income, maybe with some part time work you actually enjoy. You can also come at it from the other direction by looking for ways to reduce your biggest expenses, like housing or transportation. And of course, the bedrock for all of this is doing whatever you can, whenever you can, to boost your own personal savings. And listen, these strategies are not just for people who are decades away from retiring. Even if you're already collecting Social Security, you still have some powerful options. Downsizing your home, for example, can slash your monthly costs and potentially unlock a huge chunk of cash from your home's equity. And finding some flexible gig work can create a really valuable financial cushion while also keeping you active and engaged. So, as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. The debate over how to fix Social Security isn't really just about the numbers and the formulas. It's about what we as a country believe this program is really for. Is it a retirement benefit that you've earned, like a pension? Is it a social safety net designed to keep our elderly out of poverty? Or is it something bigger, a fundamental promise that one generation makes to the next? Because the answer to that question is what will truly shape its future for decades to come. And that's all we've got for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helped clear up some of the confusion and anxiety around this incredibly important topic. If it did, if you had a little aha moment, we'd absolutely love to hear from you down in the comments below. And finally, if you want more of these simple, straightforward explainers on the financial topics that actually matter to your wallet, please make sure you like this one, subscribe to the channel, and hit that little notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks again for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.